Welcome guys, this is your instructor Rahul Shetty from rahulshettyacademy.com. So in this video series, let us try to understand what are extent reports and how to use these reports in any Java automation frameworks like Selenium, APM or REST API automation using REST Assured. Okay, so extent reports are one of the commonly used reporting techniques in most of the automation frameworks because they give lot of features with dashboard facilities where no other reporting utility can come close to this, and this is an open source, right? So based upon this, people commonly use these reports for their framework needs. So there are a lot of information we have to learn about these reports. It's not about just learning what are these reports. You have to understand how to create for these for the test cases, and also most importantly how to create these reports when tests are executing parallelly. Okay, so if you have some 50 test cases and when 50 test cases are running parallelly, all execution should be reported to one single HTML file with consolidation. So that's an interesting thing. We will go through each and everything to understand how to generate these reports in all type of situations, and also at the end, if something fails any of your test case, then we will build one mechanism to automatically capture screenshot on test failure, and that screenshot should be attached to the extent report for that specific test case. Okay, so that's one of the cool feature, and this will really help you to find everything in one single place. Failure screenshots, reports, logs, everything you can find in one HTML file. Okay, so you need to come up with some coding to achieve all this. So in this video series, we will try to understand step by step of, we'll start from what is extent reports. From there I will teach slowly and take you to go through all these concepts, so that by end of this series you will know how to generate reports with all the advanced features present in this utility. Alright, on high level, this is how reporting looks like. Okay, so right now I have 4 test cases here. 3 are passed, 1 is failed. So that you will have one graphs like this with a pie chart showing how many pass, how many fail. Okay, and you will know duration of how many minutes these test cases ran, and total test, percentage, start date. You can also build like who is the tester who ran this automation test cases. Everything you can configure, and this is the report name, automation results. So you can customize this. In your case, if you are running API test cases, you can say API results. If you are running web automation, then you can say web automation results. Everything can be customizable. We can do it through our code. You can also add tester name also from your code. Okay, this is like high level, and if you want to dig deep into it, then you can go to the test where you have 4 test cases. Okay, so I just had a sample of 4 tests, and you can click each and every test to understand if it is passed or failed. So right now this is failed, validate app title, and you will have the logs here why that test is failed. Okay, so what is expected and what found. So in general, if something fails, we will look into our Eclipse logs, right, after you run test. But with extent reporting, you can log your failure report directly on this file, so that you can just come here and see why that failed. And you will also have attached screenshot. So we will have some mechanism to automatically take a screenshot on test failure, and you can attach it so that on failed test you will see your screenshot as well as test logs, right? So this is how we will gonna build this extent report HTML file. So I have taken sample 4 test cases and designed this. Alright, so keeping this in mind, let's get started. So first let's create a new project in Eclipse and we'll take it from there. Let's create one simple Maven project to demonstrate this concept. So right click, new project, select Maven. Okay, so next. And there are different templates Maven provides. So for automation, you can simply rely on this quick start template. So select this quick start template and do next. Right, so here where you have to provide group ID and artifact ID. To build any Maven project, you need to provide these two parameter values. Okay, so artifact ID is nothing but it's a project name. So here we are dealing with extend reports, and group ID is like package name. So whenever you create Maven project, you should give version, package, artifact ID and group ID, right? So you can give any values. So these will help you to identify your Maven project uniquely. Now when you create this project and publish this project to Maven repository, anyone can download your published project if they can provide these details. So that's why we will provide whenever you create new Maven project, we'll rely on this group ID, artifact ID, version, package. Awesome. Select finish, and that way you will see one Maven template project. You see that extend reports. So whatever artifact ID name you provide, that name will be your project name. So when you expand, you would see that one package is created with rahulshettyacademy.com. Right. So our first thing is to get all dependencies of extend reports, isn't it? So pom.xml is the place where you bring all the dependencies to support your extend reports code, right? So let me go back to our browser and I will go to Maven repository. So just search for extend reports here. So it's not coming on the top list, or you can just Google extend reports Maven. So that will give you direct link. You see that? You can actually jump into that. Right. So whenever you land on any page with Google search, make sure you watch this section. So we want to go with always the new version. So tomorrow in your case, you will see another new version number here. So select that. And then here you go. So these are the dependencies we need. You see that group ID, artifact ID, version. So somebody created this extend reports and pushed their project in Maven repository. So that now for us to pull that extracted project, if you give these dependencies in your pom.xml, you will be able to access all those extend report Java jars. Okay. So we don't need JUnit. We will use testng here. Let's remove that, and I'll add extend reports, and also we need testng too. Testng. And let's also use Selenium. So use the stable version which is available till date. Perfect. So we got our extend report jars, testng jars and Selenium jars, and that's it. So these are all the dependencies you need to work on to extend reports. So for me to show demo, I just need these information so that I can show how to create extend reports for your automation test cases. Okay. So right, so let me delete the existing test what got created by default, and let's have our own test now. So right click new. See, we will follow one approach here. First of all, I would show how to generate extend reports with one single test. I would pick one simple standalone Selenium test to open browser and close, and that way I can show you how to create a report for that simple test. So once you understand that, then we will add few more test cases and see how to generate consolidated report for all the test case results, and then how to run them in parallel mode and have that consolidation happen. Okay, step by step we will approach. For now, we will write one single test case so that you will understand the logic. Okay, extend report demo. Firstly, I would create one simple test to invoke Chrome browser and hit any URL. Okay, so thereafter we will push extend reports into this class. So I would create one test-ng test. Initial demo is our method name. Right, so move your cursor and import test-ng related package. Import test. Perfect. Right, so I will start with system.setProperty step to define where my Chrome driver is present, and thereafter I will initialize Chrome driver object WebDriver driver Chrome driver. So let's import these packages very quick. So now I will just land on our website rahulshettyacademy.com, and there I would just take the title. Okay, so once you land, we can get the title of that web browser by using a method called driver.getTitle, isn't it? So now to see this title in the output, you can write sysout. So the title what it grabbed will get printed in your output. So this is my simple test. Okay, nothing fancy or complicated. So how to introduce extend reports in this test, right? Now, so to prepare extend reports configuration, I would write that in separate method. Maybe we can say before test. So basically before test annotation will execute first before executing this test annotation, isn't it? Method name I am using as a config, and now let's try to import that. Right, now let's actually define all the configuration belongs to extend reports. So basically you have to remember and know two classes when you are dealing with extend reports. One is extend report. This is one class name, extend reports, and another one is extend spark reporter. So these two classes are very helpful for us to generate the reports. Extend spark reporter. So first of all, we will try to create objects for these two classes, and then I will show how to connect these two classes together in building the reports, right? So firstly, let's create object for this extend spark reporter class and try to understand what exactly this means. Okay, so to create object, you need to write a syntax with new operator. So here basically reporter is an object for extend spark reporter class. So this extend spark reporter class expects a path where your report should be created. Okay, so this is basically responsible for creating report. So now you have to explicitly provide the path to store your reports. So let's say I want to create reports by creating one new folder inside this project itself. Okay, so to create the path dynamically through Java, you can say system.getProperty and user.dir. That will give you the project path dynamically no matter in which system you are working. System.getProperty user.dir. When you say this, you will get the project path until extend reports. So what is the project path until extend reports? So this is the path in my system. So this path will get automatically generated. Okay. So under this path, I have to create one more path like this. / let's say reports is one package, and under that package, let's have one HTML file. So basically this index.html file is the one which will have your extend reports. Okay, so I would take that complete string what got created in one path variable so that I can send that path variable here. Awesome. So this is the path. So basically this path points to your project. Under this automatically one reports folder will be created. In that folder you will see this file. So I'll carefully place that string path whatever I created in step number 15, because this extend spark reporter class expects that HTML file where it has to create. Right, so import this. Perfect. So that package is imported and your error is gone. So basically this extend Spark reporter is responsible to create one HTML file and to do some configurations. So now let's do some configurations here. Now, if you want to have one new name here, so let's say you want to set your report name as web automation results. So right now, the existing report what we have, it's saying automation results report, right? You can modify it using this reporter object. As I said, this object is responsible to make all configurations for your report. So reporter dot config. Select this method config dot set. You see that there are a lot of methods available here to manipulate your reporting file. So set report name. So this is the method which will help you to set report name here. So let's give the name saying web automation results. So this is our report name. Now, so if you move your cursor on top, you are seeing a title called Academy Results. Okay, so this is a document title. Okay, so you can actually tweak this as well. So everything is configurable in extend reports. So that's the beauty of this open source tool. Reporter again dot config. Anything you start like this object dot configuration dot set. You would see a method called set document title. So here you can say test results. Let's have a title name as test results. Perfect. So now reporter object is created and that object holds some details, right? Now you have to create another class object called extend reports. So this is our main class. So this is the one which is responsible to drive all your reporting execution. Let me show you. So I'm creating class. So initially only we discussed, right? We need to create objects for two classes. Now let's import all relevant packages. Perfect. As I said, this is the main class. Now you have to attach report, whatever you created with extend Spark reporter. Okay, so with this class you created some stuff like basic configurations and you also set where your path file should be stored, right? So you created one report. So attach that complete report to this main class because this main class extend reports is responsible to create and consolidate all your test execution. Okay, so the extend Spark reporter is a helper class which is helping to create some configuration and that will finally report to its main class. So there is a method called attach reporter. Okay, so once you create report, you have to attach it to your main class. And here you have to give the object of extend Spark reporter, right? So this is our object, right? So simply attach object so that automatically now your main class will have knowledge of your object and this object provides all these details. Perfect. Now if you want to say the tester name you can actually give it through your extend reports main class. You can say extend dot, there is a method called set system info. Okay, so here you can define your property called tester and you can write your name. I'm just writing Rahul Shetty for now. Awesome, so that's it. So you have successfully created a main class object which also have information about its configuration. Now, how to use this main class object here? So till now what you have done, you just created one file and gave some configuration, but how your test case report will be attached to this main class variable is our question. Now, in your actual test, first of all, you have to clearly say that when this test case is being started executing, you should say extend dot. You see that I am not able to call any method from this extend class object because this class is being created, the variable is created which is local to this method and you cannot access this object outside this method. So to make this happen, you have to declare this extend reports variable in global level. Okay, so if you define global level, so this extend object now can be handled in subsequent methods as well. So remove it here because you already created. And now you say extend dot, you will have all the methods available. You see that create test. So you have to explicitly say that create one new test in the reporting file. Okay, so once you create test and that's it, automatically this variable will keep on monitoring the result status of this. If it reports pass, then it will go back and update this test result as pass. If it failed, then extent will go back and mark it as a fail. Okay, you need not worry about anything. You just need to create test so that this extent object is aware there is one test case which is being executed, so that it will create one in your report. Okay, so this step is mandatory in every test so that extent report will have knowledge about what's happening. And you have to provide test name. Okay, so initial demo. So this is our test name. Let's assume that. So for now I am showing it here. In our subsequent lectures, I would show how to inject these extent reports in framework design. You will not write anything in your test. Everything will be driven through TestNG listeners and extent utilities. I'll create one utility file. So don't think that for every test I have to write all this information. So first, to understand core concept, I am showing you one standalone test, so that in next lectures we will separate these pieces and spread it into different parts so that it will have some framework feel. Once your test is done, at the end you have to say extend.flush. It will be notified that test is done and it will no more start monitoring it. Okay, so this method is also mandatory to add at the end of your complete execution. Let's say you have 5 test cases. After 5th test case, you can do this flush method so that report will be generate for you. Okay, so if not, it will be still in listening mode. Awesome. So that's all you need to do. This is one simple test which will create one new test in extent reports. It will monitor the results, and after you flush, it will update the status with pass or fail, and it has done some basic reporting as well. So let's run this test and see how this goes. So this simple test should create one extent report file and report about this initial demo test results. Okay. So it invokes Chrome browser. Just hit that URL of rahulshettyacademy.com and that's it. Test execution is done. Awesome. Right. So there are no failures and you can now open the report. Let's refresh this project. Right click refresh and you see that reports folder is being generated. So inside this folder there is one index.html file. Okay, so let's copy this and let's go back to our browser. And here you go. So this is our first basic reporting of extent reports. So when you go to dashboard, you see that we have updated name to web automation results with configuration change using extent Spark reporter, and title name also you see test results, and tester is Rahul Shetty, and here we have only one test, isn't it? So that test name is initial demo. Right, so we created a new test saying initial demo, and that's why it created and it passed because there is no failures. Now we will try to forcibly fail the test and see how that goes. When you create test, automatically one object is created for your complete test method. Okay, so you can catch that object by writing extend test, right? So this is the object, comes from extend test class. So whenever you create test, the extend reports will create one object which is unique to your test method. So this object will be responsible to listen and report all the happenings back to the extent report. Okay. So using this object, so whenever you create create test method, this object will be created and you can use it in your further steps if you want to tweak that reporting for that specific test case. Now, if I want to report a failure, test dot, and there are a lot of methods here. If you want to attach a screenshot for the result of that specific test, you can say test dot add screen capture. Okay, so when you add screenshot here, automatically extent reports know that this test object belongs to this method, right? So that will attach that screenshot to that specific test method. So all this happening because of that newly object created, right, with this step. Now if you want to fail also, if you just say dot, you will have some methods here which will help you to fail your test. Okay, so you can just pass the string saying result do not match. You can close your browser once execution is done, so that browsers will not stay open in your test. Right. So when you run this test now, that will report fail because you are explicitly failing your extend report object. So automatically this will go and report that my test got failed, and accordingly it will get updated in your report file. But do remember, ideally we will not do this in our test because we don't know when it fails, right? So I am explicitly failing it, but in real time it may fail at any time. So that's why in our coming lectures we will integrate this to TestNG listeners, so that whenever your test case failed, automatically TestNG listener will capture it and it will execute failed method, right? In that method we will pass this code. So that way anytime whenever your test is failed, that listener will be invoked and that will report to extend reports that your test is failed. Don't worry, we will see that. So in this lecture I'm trying to explain you some basic things like how would extend report generates with a fail method, how test is created, how configurations are done, how to attach back to reporting. So if you know these basic details, in the next lectures when I talk and integrate this TestNG listeners and parallel execution, you will not get confused. Okay, so if I teach everything together, that will mess up you, right? So let me run this test and see what happens this time. So it will again open the browser and do the same operations, but we are reporting failure this time. We are doing it explicitly. Okay, awesome. So let me go back to reporting, refresh the browser, and you see that your test is failed now. Okay, results do not match. So whatever string you provided here is showing up here saying results do not match. Though your test is executed successfully here, but while reporting to extend reports, we are reporting as failure. So that's why extend report have updated it. So if you don't report, then by default it will treat as a pass. Okay, if you report failure, then only it will turn to red mark. Okay, so that's why in our next lectures we will handle listeners, and whenever test is failed, we will use this method to report to extend reports. So this is the basic of extend report code which you have to know. So keeping this code in mind, let's try to introduce a framework related things and see how we handle this extend reports in real time when you have multiple test cases in place. Okay, see you in the next video. Thank you.